It's not only about the physical accessibility, the physical environment, but it's about communication, it's about the transportation, and so many other issues are there with regard to accessibility. So when we talk about, I will be touching on that also, when we talk about the physical environment, for a person like me on a wheelchair, it's very important for me to be able to get into a building, to be able to move around inside the rooms. If it is not accessible, then I cannot do anything, I cannot go anywhere. But for a blind person, maybe for a deaf person, or for a person with intellectual disability or some other disability, the physical, it is important, but still it is not the most major thing in their life again. They need accessibility in other ways, the communication, how can it be accessible for how do we communicate with the deaf community, or how do we make sure that the blind people are getting, the information that they should be getting, those kind of accessibility aspects, we don't think about it also. So those are the things that I hope one of these days we will be able to have another meeting together with the churches. And it's not only about making the church inclusive, it is also about the services that the church is primed, in the right position to provide for many categories of disabilities. And that is one thing that I have been saying over and over again. We in Nagaland, because that's the truth, that there was a lot of neglect in the disability sector for a very, very long time. It is only in this past few years that we are making some progress, and we are happy about that. But we still have a very, very long way to go and a lot of work to be done. And the services, the rehabilitation services, the therapies, the various kinds of services that disabled people need to live their lives, to be able to function on an everyday basis. Many of them are still lacking in our society, in our state, because of the neglect. Nothing was started for so many years, in all through the years, nothing was started. So now a few private centers are popping up, which is a very good thing. The government, it's still lacking in so many ways. Some are being started. Of course, we have the DDRC, where led by Dr. Lee, which is doing a lot of good work here in Dimapur, or for areas around Dimapur. But that is only one center, and how much can it do? How will it serve the rest of the state? So we do have a huge lack of services, so the church is actually in a great position to be able to provide some of these services, volunteer services also. And but as I said, this is another topic. So I hope we get the time one of these days to have another good discussion about the things, many of these things which I feel the church can do, and which I hope they will also work with us, get more involved in the disability sector. So I will just go quickly through some of these. This is not only about the language that we are talking about today, but if we want to do anything in the disability sector, then we have to first understand the disability issues and why something is so important, because without understanding that, we can talk about doing this, we can talk about doing that, we're going to start this project, or we are going to become, start a mission, a kind of ministry in the disability sector. But without really understanding what disability is, what the issues are, and what the needs are, and why such a thing is needed, then in the end, it becomes a useless exercise, or becomes a kind of a waste of time also in many cases. So, very simply, can you just put it up? So, we'll just talk about these are, of course, very, very basic things, but what is disability? Dr. Imli also has discussed, a few of these things, and he has spoken about some of the different types of disabilities that are there. I also had included that, but I will skip that part. But Dr. Lee, of course, was speaking in a medical point of view. So some were sounding very scary, but I can assure you that being a disabled person is nothing to be frightened about. It is not really scary. Of course, it is true that there are some conditions which are very painful or so, which are very, I know it creates a lot of problems in an individual's life. That there is no doubt about that. But disability, when you talk about disability, it is not really, it is not something to be scared about. It is not something to be ashamed about. It is not something, as I said, it's not something really scary or to be afraid about. That is just a point that I wanted to make. A blind person. Because now they can just hear some music maybe, and a lot of things are going on there, but there is no one explaining to them what is going on in the video, then that is inaccessible. Or for a deaf person, for example, if there is nothing on the screen and I'm just talking and we don't even provide a sign language interpreter. So this is a sign language, this is a legitimate language, sign language. So there are over 300 sign languages around the world. Every country has their own sign language, and we have the Indian Sign Language in India. And it's like spoken language only. It is a legitimate language, and this is the best way. And it is not only for the deaf community; it is also for the hearing community to communicate with the deaf people. I'm sure some of you all have people are deaf, or you may have deaf people in your own families, deaf relatives. So how do you communicate with them? Communicating with the deaf community is one of the biggest obstacles we face. We cannot say everything that we want to say to them. They also cannot express everything that we want to express, and sometimes things that we need to say that causes a lot of frustration also. Now the thing is, sign language is still very not popular at all in our context. So even the deaf community, a few are getting educated in sign language, but many in the deaf community is also not educated. So we need to encourage the deaf people also in our own communities, in our villages, in our colonies, anywhere in our neighborhoods, for them to go for education. They need to be educated, because sometimes that unawareness is also still there among families. So we need to encourage them to get an education. But actually, why I become disabled in the world is because the environment around me is not accessible. If it is accessible, then I will not be disabled at all. In the sense, I will have my impairment, which creates some limitations for me, that is for sure. But then I will have the access that I need to be able to do things. So when we talk about disability, it's actually about the disability that is created by the environment around a person. So that needs to be, so breaking down these barriers that are there, is the only way. The breaking down of these barriers is the only path to an inclusive world, a world where no one is left behind. So this is why, because of all these things, this is why, all these things that we have just discussed, why the various laws and provisions have come into force, both international and national, and to ensure that the barriers that people with disabilities face are taken down and they are able to live their lives as equal citizens. So in Nagaland, actually I won't go into detail, but we have made some progress in the recent years, but we still have a lot of work to do, So that is why we really need affirmative action from our government, obviously, but from everyone, from every section of society. That is what is really, really needed.
Nagaland TV, Sop Manulaga Awas. Watch us live on Geo TV and on your television sets as well. For Dimapur viewers, we are on channel number 994 in Global Chapter, and Kohima and Mokokchung viewers, switch to channel number 138 on Hornbill Digital. For all news and updates, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.